Hello everybody, again this is the next issue of the Mover magazine. This is our August issue. First thing I wanted to say was that you might remember last time I was talking about how we are perceived as being a UK magazine, where in fact we're actually a global magazine, and it's strange. I've put something in the magazine this time about how your perception can be different depending on how you look at things, and for people in the UK we're perceived as being international, and for people elsewhere we're perceived as being UK. Strange thing, because I had a call from or an email from Terry Head from IAM very shortly after that, saying that they have exactly the same problem with the Portal, funnily enough. The Portal being their magazine, which is obviously a global magazine, it's a global organisation, but still people think that it's really a US-centric magazine. Well, it's not, and we're not UK. Both organisations are global publications. So just thought I'd clear that up. Interesting that Terry has the same problem that I do, but there we are. What else is in here? Lots of things. There's one here, a story that is really aimed at the UK market, having just said what I've just said. This is the Masters Removers Group, and this is a group of companies in the UK that sort of bring people in who are maybe on the point of considering where they're going with a company, maybe considering selling it or changing it in some way, and they allow them to be able to make those changes without losing control of the company. Interesting. And if you're at that sort of situation with your company and you are in the UK, then read that article. In fact, there might be interesting companies overseas as well, I don't know, but we didn't ask them about that. But read that story anyway if you're in that sort of position with your company. Interesting story here you might like to read: The Future of Container Shipping. This is a story, it's actually a report from the consultants McKinsey's, and they talk about all kinds of interesting things. They're looking at the future of containerised shipping. Containerised shipping is more or less 50 years old now, and so they're looking at the next 50 years potentially, and they come up with all kinds of interesting stuff, such as that we will be having container ships that carry 50,000 TEUs, which is about twice as big as the biggest ones that we have now, which is hard to get your mind around. Equally hard to get your mind around is the concept that they say that we're likely to have only 3 or 4 shipping lines in the next few years. And slightly disturbing for some people in the industry is they predict that freight forwarders will no longer be required. The middleman, as they see it, will be superseded by technology. Interesting. Read the story, and if you have any comment about it, I'm always interested, as you well know, to what you might think. What else have we got? Oh yeah, we've got a story here that has come from Ray De Silva. You will be aware that IAM and FIDI have come together to some extent with what they call their professional cooperation guidelines, which is ways in which companies really ought to work together, and they've joined forces to try and promote that. And this is a story that Ray De Silva from IAM has written, which explains how that works. Nice story, well done, and that'll explain it for those of you who are not familiar with it. Another story that I just want to urge you to read, I mean, this is nothing to do with the moving industry, but those of you who are familiar with the Mover magazine and have read it for some time will know that we don't always stick to the moving industry. If I see something that I think you should be or would be interested in, then it goes in the magazine anyway. And this one is headed 10 Things You Need to Know About Your Back. Now, that seems like a strange subject, but if you think about it, people in the moving industry have a potential problem with that. There's obviously porters who are carrying things around all day. If they get back problems, then they're out of business. But you have drivers who are sitting in driver's seats for many hours of the day. You have salesmen who are sitting in cars travelling around the countryside, sitting in cars for long hours. And of course you have people sitting at work and everybody in some way or other, of course, as we all do, relies on our backs to work properly, otherwise we can't do our jobs. Now that of course is true of anybody in any kind of walk of life, but in the moving industry I think it's particularly interesting. Now when you look at that story, there are things in there that you are not expecting, I promise you. There are things that I wasn't expecting. And it's been written by the Chartered Society of Physiotherapy, who I would expect would know what they're talking about. Read it, you might well learn something that you will find interesting. And there's lots of other things in here, of course, as always there is, but just a few that I wanted to bring your attention to. I hope you'll enjoy reading it. I hope the summer has been good to you, by the way. We've all many of us have had some unusually warm weather, which is both enjoyable and slightly worrying, but there we are. I hope the summer season, or the busy season if you're in the southern hemisphere, is going well for you. And I'll see you again. Oh, by the way, next month we've got some really interesting developments with the mover. I'll explain more about it to you next month, but that's really interesting, and I hope you'll enjoy reading the August issue. Talk to you again soon. Bye.